up, man? Good to see everyone. Oh. Good morning. All right. It feels like it's been 6 months since I've even been here. I was here last week, I know, but it was different, so it like threw me off, and then I wasn't here the week before, so it feels like it's been forever since I've seen you guys. So good to see you. I'm really excited about the next 2 weeks, 3 weeks maybe. I'm excited about today, but I'm more excited about next week and the week after. Because I've been working on something for a little while now, and I've shared some of it with a couple of people. And every time I start talking about it, I get excited, and I start my heart starts pumping. But then I realize I can't just throw this message out there. I feel like I have to build a process into next week. So this is kind of like a stepping stone to get us to the next 2 weeks. And so you don't want to miss next week or the week after for sure. That's right. So I've got a message slide somewhere in there. It's called Boundless by Design. This will be my first actual series as your pastor. I've just kind of been jumping around and just doing whatever, and I actually spent some time and focused in on some thoughts and ideas and put them together. And so I finally have a week and a half, 3 weeks of ideas and messages. So I'm really excited because I feel like God's starting to turn a little bit more and give just a little bit more and move just a little bit more. And so that's exciting to me. And so I'm excited to share with you. And so it's not going to be so much preaching. I hope that's okay. But I want to trigger some ideas, and I want to get you thinking. Is that okay? Can we do that? Do you ever and I may be the only one, I'm sure, but do you ever just drift off into thought and just kind of just go, and then you realize, oh, how long have I been sitting here? And sometimes the ideas or things that cross your mind, and you just, how could I get that? Or you know what I mean? Or and you drift off into this thought, and it's it seems really peaceful, or it seems man, if I could do this and this, then that would be perfect. My life would be set. Do you ever think like that? Do you ever wonder, or if I could get rid of this, and I could get rid of that, then I could breathe a little bit. You ever think? And so this whole series is basically boundless by design. See, we're designed in a way, I feel that God made each and every one of us in a special way. Some of us a little more special. I'm just kidding. No, but I feel like we're designed for something, and we're designed. I'm going to give everybody a secret. Has everybody ever wondered, man, I don't know what I'm really created for. I don't know what my calling is. Has anybody ever wondered, I just struggle. I can't figure out my calling? Okay, don't tell anybody, but I figured it out. I'm going to set your life free right here. Though everyone who's been wondering what your calling is, what's your purpose in life, my purpose, what is my purpose? Do you ever think that? What is my purpose? It's to love. That's it. It's to love. It's that simple. You can love and be a mechanic. You can love and be a teacher. You can love and sell Dr. Pepper. You can love and build houses. Now, it's hard to love and sell Dr. Pepper sometimes, but it's also hard to love and and be a police officer sometimes. And it's also hard to love sometimes and be a mechanic. And because the person that's bringing you their car, they know what's wrong with it. And they want to tell you what to do and how to fix it. But the whole time in your head, you're thinking, okay, let's do it their way. Or do you know what I'm saying? Do you ever have, okay, this is one of my pet peeves. And I'm very less Christian sometimes in this situation, if that's such a thing. When someone comes and asks me for directions, I don't know what it is about me that looks like I know where everything is, but people will come and ask me directions, and I'll be like, oh yeah, well you just, you do go right here, do this, and they're like, no, I already went that way. Well, then why are you asking me the directions? You're telling me, you see what I'm saying? Like they want to know directions, but they don't want to listen to what I have to say.
Come on now.
How many times do we get directions, but we don't want to listen to what God has to say? How many times do we get directions, but that way's, you got to go through the hood to go that way. I don't want to go that way. What if I break down? What if I get lost? What if I end up on a dead-end street? What if we didn't what if ourselves to death? Holy cow. So I got to thinking about this, boundless by design, and this idea kind of popped up and started rolling, and I think we're all created for things. How many of you ever had a passion that you just can't seem to get to? A calling or a desire that you just can't seem to get to? Like, I don't know, I feel like everybody has a certain thing, and some people it's you love to work on cars, and sometimes, you like to work out, and so you want to be a trainer, and sometimes, you like to build things and make things with your house, so you like, or build houses. You like to make things with your hands, so you build houses. And sometimes sometimes you just have this desire to do things. But then when you start trying to do the logistics of it in your head, you're like, this will never work. Are you with me? Yes. And then sometimes we have these desires that as soon as the idea pops up in your head, you're like, there's no way I'm not doing that. I'm not even capable. There's just no way. And we covered a little bit of this when we talked about the chatterbox. But I think Todd called it a dream Uzi. Like when you have this, or dream killer, that's what it was. Like you start having these dreams, you start having these ideas, and then you have someone right there next to you, just shooting them down as fast as you can put them up there, just shooting them down. You know what I'm talking about? So like, I get all these ideas and these thoughts running in my head. Like, from a very young age, I could have told you I'm not designed to speak in front of people. Like, I was fairly quiet as a kid, unless you got me around my friends. I was quiet in class most of the time. I was pretty good. I didn't do anything, the people who know me know that a lot of people would call me shy, and I don't know that I would use the word shy, but I would reserve, and I would watch people, and I would listen, and this thing, it got away. I would listen and I would observe, and I would choose who I would open up to and who I wouldn't open up to. And some of you should take that advice. Some of us should do that. Be careful who you open up to, because that person that you open up to may not be there to help you. They may be there to destroy you. So be careful who you open up to. I had to learn that one the hard way too. But I would be real careful with who I opened up to and who I talked to and who I shared, my life with or my stories with. And so I didn't really talk and a whole lot. And I don't know that it's stutter, but I get my words backwards sometimes, like verbal dyslexia or something like that. And like sometimes my words don't quite come out the way that I have them right here. I have a hard time getting them from here to here. Now, I do have this enjoyment that I have. I have this ability, and I'm not like, I love to get my words from here to right here. Like, I feel like I do a much better job at writing what I want to say rather than saying what I want to say. And so I write a lot. I do a lot of writing, and sometimes it's just jumbled, and I have to go back and really collect it and figure it out. And so I got to thinking, when Todd talked to me about being the pastor, like, at first I was like, okay, yeah, but then I was like, wait, I don't want to talk every week. I don't want to talk to people all the time. I don't want people to talk to me every time. And then but wait. At first it was like a good idea, but then I started thinking, no, this is not. No, whoa, what did I just sign up for? Like, okay. And then God showed me something a couple of weeks ago, and I was sitting at Elevation Church. Thank you. No, I was sitting at Elevation, and the guy was talking about one thing, but he said one thing, and then all of a sudden my mind jumped, and like my thoughts went in a complete different direction, and like I feel like all of a sudden I just realized something that's been sitting right there in front of me my whole life, and I didn't even know. And like I've read it, and we even talked about it in the chatterbox. We talked about Moses and how he argued with God. And this revelation to me, it hit me hard, and I hope I can deliver it and show you in the way that it will latch on, because it was huge. He was talking about Moses, and Moses is coming up, and he sees this burning bush, and he starts having a conversation with this burning bush, and God's talking to him, and he's telling Moses about how he's going to lead the people of Israel out of slavery. And Moses listens to him, but then he's like, no. They're not going to believe me. How do they know? How will they know? And then he starts, and if you read the story, we're not going to get into it today, but if you read the story, like Moses is debating with God. He was basically telling God, no, I'm not capable. I can't. He hears him. He listens to him. Okay, but no. Pick someone else. Get someone else to do it. But there's this one part that I want to read you today, and this changed my whole past 2 weeks. Like, it changed everything for me. And I'm going to start in Exodus 4. And so if you have a Bible with you, or a smartphone, or whatever you got, turn to Exodus 4. And I want to point out something. Because this changed me. This changed everything. This is Exodus 4. Are you there? Can you find it, or is it able? Cool. Okay, Exodus 4. And it says, but Moses protested again. And I just told you, like, Moses is protesting against what God's telling him to do. None of us have ever done that. This is just Moses. So what if they won't believe me or listen to me? What if they say the Lord never appeared to you? Then the Lord asked him, what is that in your hand? And that's what I'm going to teach from. What is that in your hand? And I had to stop. Because when this guy was reading this, but he was talking about a completely different subject. And when I was sitting there at Elevation, see, I told you I'm not capable. I'm not qualified. See, when I was sitting there listening, and he started talking about this, and he read this. He didn't even read it. He just said it, and I had to go and find it. And I was reading it, and I thought, oh my gosh, Because he said, what is that in your hand? He said, it's a staff. Do you think God didn't know what a staff was? Do you think God didn't know what he was holding in his hand? And so I started thinking about this, and my mind started and I wish I had a staff. Chris used to have one, and I don't know what happened to it. I think it was Chris's. I don't remember where, but it used to be around here somewhere. This staff. What is it about this staff? We all know how the story goes. See, we have the privilege of knowing how the story ends. Moses rescued God's people, and he used the staff. We know that part, right? But see, Moses didn't know the end of the story yet. And God just asked him, what is that in your hand? And he said, well, it's a staff. What do you think, what did Moses see and what did God see? This right here, it got me. It messed with my head for the rest of the day. Let me give you a little history of Moses. Brief history. Moses killed a man. Moses killed a man, and then he fled, met a woman, was working for her dad as a shepherd. And he had a staff. And now God's telling him, Moses, I'm picking you to go free my people. And this is what happened. And this hit me big time. That staff, what did Moses see when he saw it? When God asked, what is that in your hand? And Moses said, it's a staff. Do you ever pass a point? Okay, this is when I was leaving, when I left on a Friday evening to go to Charlotte to go to Elevation, and I was going to. For some of you who don't know my story, I moved to Shreveport or Bossier, whatever. I don't know, anyway, and got divorced, and then ended up moving back, and so I had every intention of avoiding Louisiana altogether to go to North Carolina. I was going to just go straight up and around and take the long way because I didn't really have a good reason to pass through Louisiana. But anyway, Friday I got off of work and I wasn't going to leave until early the next morning, and I got my stuff together and everything was loaded up and ready to go, and I thought, you know what, I'm going to go ahead and leave today. I'm going to go. And I just started driving, and I started texting one of my buddies, and and he lives in Shreveport or Bossier, whatever. It's all the same to me. And I texted him and I was like, "Hey man, what are y'all up to? I'm going to be passing through. I wouldn't mind seeing you for a little, for a few minutes as I pass through or whatever." And he's like, "Yeah, we're not doing anything. Come by the house, whatever. Hang out for a little bit." So I'm going, and I thought, well, that'll at least help me out a little bit, and I'll just go because since I was leaving, I wanted to try to take the quickest way there instead of anyway. So I go. And I'm coming up, after my divorce, I moved in with a couple other friends into this other house. And I'm coming up it's in Wascom, and Wascom's on the state line. And I'm coming up, and all of a sudden, I see the old exit where I was there for a little while. And I'm passing through, and it was like a flood of, it felt like 10 years of memories, crammed into 1 year, that ran through my head in about, 30 seconds. It seemed like it just so fast. I went from I remember taking the exit. I remember the smell that the car had that I was using at the time. I remember the detail of the tile in that house. I remember all these things that with these weird details. I all of a sudden started remembering everything about what took place at that point in my life when I was living there. And then I keep going, and I'm like, oh, I'm just not going to look at it. Just keep going. Don't look. Just keep going. And so I'm going, and then I exit. And then the last time I was in Bossier, Shreveport, it was underwater, most of it. And so, like, when you're going on 20 and you exit and take 220, that's the way I would go to my old apartment and go. And all that was underwater, a big majority. I remember there was used to be a pasture with cows in it, and at the time when it flooded, the cows were, they all drowned. And I remember passing through there, and then all of a sudden I realized, like, whoa, there's not even any water. Like, the river is, like, down. And, like, I just started remembering all these things, like, that was crammed in my head. I started recalling everything that went wrong in that point in my life. Everything. I remembered every little detail. Do you ever have that? Do you ever, like, come across something, or how about this? A song will come on, and all of a sudden, boom, oh my gosh, you're right there back in 1999 listening to Vanilla Ice. It might have been farther back than 99, I don't even remember. Yeah. So you know what I'm talking about. Like, you'll get to this point in your life, and all of a sudden something triggers this, and all of a sudden you see all this stuff. And I realized when Moses looked at that staff represented where he had just come from. He just realized that staff stood as who he had become. He had become the guy that killed someone, fled, in this land where he's now a shepherd. Moses seen his dysfunction. Moses seen his failure. Moses seen everything that he was that told him he couldn't be who God was telling him to be. You see where I'm going? What is that? What's in your hand? What is it? What's in your hand? Some of it's a cell phone that needs to go in the trash. What's in your hand? What is it? What is it that you see your dysfunction? What is it that you have, that you pass, that you recognize, the song that you can't let go of because every time it plays, it takes you right back there to where you know it all went wrong. Or to that one thing that holds you back, holds you down. You know God's created you for something else, but for some reason, I just can't find it in me to take that first step to do it. And that question stuck in my head. What's in your hand? What is that in your hand? And I started thinking, I'm so unqualified for this job. I don't even consider it a job, this position. I'm divorced. I don't speak well. I don't use proper grammar. I don't have any public speaking knowledge whatsoever. I don't have there's a word for it, and I can't remember what it's called. What is it, Howard? There's a word for it that they say, like, you got to have to, like, to speak, like, for public, Charisma? No, I can't remember what it's called. I can't. It's a weird word. It's something else. It's like speech etiquette almost. Like eloquence. Man, I don't know. I don't know. It's a weird word. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Like, I don't have that. I don't have, like, the proper way. I don't have the. I'm not the president. He gets up there and he's like all speech prepared and all this, and like, I'm not, like, I'm just a normal guy. Like, I'm just no different than you. And I guess I always seen like the pastor as being this person that was different. But he's not. And he doesn't have to wear a suit and tie. If he did, I wouldn't have applied. And I would have ran from it. I have dysfunction in my life just like anybody else does. And I'm really good at, when I start seeing all these things, all this stuff, I can come up with a million reasons why I shouldn't be here, why I shouldn't be teaching, why I shouldn't be leading a church, why I shouldn't be doing all this. But God said, no. I want to turn your dysfunction and I want to take it into a victory. Just like Jesus, when he died on the cross, and I said it last week too, what we don't realize is that when Jesus was on the cross, it looked like defeat to everyone else. See, we get the privilege of actually seeing the whole story. What is your dysfunction right now? Don't say it out loud. I mean, I don't actually want to know, but think to yourself, what is it? And we all like to label the big stuff. But what about the little stuff too? I'm just not confident in myself, so I'm not going to take that step to do what God's telling me to do. I have some insecurities. So I'm just going to stand here and I'm not going to do anything else that God's telling me to do. You realize that's just as damaging as saying, well, I used to hate Christians. Or, well, I'm addicted to pornography, so I can't lead a class. I can't. Or I used to be an alcoholic, so God can't use me. Dysfunction does not disqualify. Amen. Yeah, you should come up here and do this. You should do this. That's good. Say it again. Dysfunction does not disqualify. See, that's good. That's good. That's good. See, and that's the thing. See, your dysfunction, what you see as your dysfunction, God sees as your victory. God sees as something completely different. See, hang on, I think I have some notes. Oh, it says the same thing. I already said it. I didn't write any notes. I have 4 lines. I don't know why I even kid myself trying to write notes. It does me no good. But see, God wants to take what you have considered yourself, what you've considered a failure, and He wants to transform it. And He wants to take you above it and beyond it. Because here's the thing. We focus on that and we let that chatterbox start telling us why we can't, why we're not, why we won't. It'll never work. You're never going to do it good enough. Remember, you used to be an addict. You can't do it. Remember, you can't do it. We start hearing that. Remember, no, you don't have the money to do that. Well, you've never even been to college. Why would they even consider you? You don't have any background. Why would they consider you? See, I want to point out, there's a difference in the way the world works and the way God works. And so, when you get this desire or this feeling of something, and you start trying to put the logistics together in your head, it's not always going to make sense. Most of the time, it won't make any sense. But what we have to do is we have to take that first step. We can't worry about step C before we take step A and B. Just take step A and then take step B. You can't go to A to C. Go from A to B first. Let's just focus on that. Let's just do that. So this is the thing. God has designed us to do more. God has designed us to love and to give and to serve. And wherever it is we're at. But we get wrapped up in society. We get wrapped up in circumstances. We get wrapped up in situations. We get wrapped up in the things that we call failure. And we don't like anybody to know our failures. We don't like anybody to know our insecurities. We don't want anybody to know what actually holds us down. But what if God wants to use that very thing? What if God wants to actually use it? And it seems like to me, that's what he usually wants to use more than the things that are great in my life. He wants to use the things that aren't great. What good does it do to transform what he's already given you to begin with? He wants to transform the area in your life that you're not serving him. So this is what I want to do, because next week is going to be really cool. So you got to come back. But you got to think, what is in my hand? What is in my hand? What's in my hand? What's in my heart? What's in my past that I consider a failure? What is in my heart or my past or my hand that's holding me down, that I'm calling it a failure, but God wants to change it into a victory? What is holding you back from your dreams? What is holding you back from your calling? What is holding you back from your passion? We all get ideas and we all get these things that, but man, I just don't have time. Or, well, if I didn't have these kids, I'd pack up and move to Nashville and I'd start my music career. God. But if I didn't have this, if I didn't have that, or if I wouldn't have done this, but I can't because that chatterbox starts reminding us of who we were, who we used to be, and it tries to tell us that that's who we are. You realize that when Jesus came out of the grave, he redeemed mankind. Not one kind, but mankind. You realize that? Jesus redeemed mankind. Okay? Not one kind. And we're really good at wanting to resuscitate instead of resurrect. Quit trying to resuscitate the things that are dying or that have died. And resurrect. Let God resurrect those areas of your life. And here's something else. Here's my last point. When Jesus actually showed up after he came out of the grave, you realize they didn't recognize him. That tells me he looked different. There was something different about him. There was something different. And so when you actually let go and let God resurrect your life, it's not going to look the same as the old life. How many of you remember Chris Wilson? Yeah. The new Chris and the old Chris didn't look the same. It did not look the same. And he definitely didn't act the same. So when you let God actually resurrect something in your life, it's going to look different. We can put a t-shirt on and walk around and say whatever we want. And we can show up here on Sundays sometimes and we can say whatever we want. But until we let go of some of these things and we start identifying, this is the first step of this whole process, this whole boundless life. We can live without being bound. We put limitations on ourselves that were never designed to be there. We put boundaries. We put these caps and chains and whatever, ropes, however you want to define it, on ourselves. We tie ourselves down to things that we weren't meant to be tied down to. And we get into routine, and we get into going through the motions. But then we realize it, and instead of letting God resurrect that point in our life, we try to resuscitate it, and it might be okay for a little while, but then we go right back. We go right back. And I hope this makes sense, because I have to be really careful because I can't get into next week's stuff yet. It's too good. We have to identify what area it is that we know is holding us down and holding us back. I can't identify it for you. Only you can. Only I know what has been telling me that I can't do this, and why I can't, and why I won't, and why it'll never work, and why I'll fail. God wants to work in your failures because He wants to resurrect that part of your life. He wants to change that part of your life. And He wants to let you live the way you're designed to live. See, we know the rest of the story. Moses goes on and he uses the staff to part the sea. The staff becomes a very big role in the life of Moses. See, it doesn't matter. None of the rescuing God's people, that staff, the life of Moses, you see all this stuff he done, but God didn't say, well, if you wouldn't have killed that guy, man, I could have used you in such a way. No, God said, use it. God said, take the staff and use it. And so that was big to me. That was big news. And I mean, when I realized the staff, why did God say, what is in your hand? And I feel like when Moses looked at that staff, he said, yeah, it's a staff. But I think that was that moment when everything just flashed through his head. He remembered killing the guy. He remembered running. He remembered meeting some woman. And he remembered now he's tending some flock. All that stuff suddenly flashed through his head of who he had labeled himself as and who society had labeled himself as. Do you see it? What is it that's in your hand? What is it? It's a staff. It's my whole life. It's all the reasons I'm not where I'm supposed to be and I'm not where I'm designed to be. But God said, okay, so let's use it. So here's your homework. You've already got it. You know, as soon as I said it, you knew what it was. What's keeping you from loving? What's keeping you from serving? What's keeping you from doing? What's that passion and that desire that's in your heart that you know you were designed for, that you just simply won't take the steps to do? That's all you got to do this week. Just identify it. We're gonna talk about it some more, and then we're next week. So I have to keep you coming back. You got to come back. It's going to be so cool. But we have to get there. We have to identify this. This is the part that nobody likes. Nobody likes to identify what you're doing wrong. Trust me. I don't like knowing, oh, I've been playing that song wrong the whole time. Whoops. Nobody likes to identify the area that we know. Because that, I know, I get it. I get it. But let's identify it. Don't overanalyze it. Don't overthink it. Let's just identify it. Because next week we're going to talk about how do we let it go. How do we let that go? How do we take that? How do we actually find us? How do we actually find me? You see what I'm saying? So we're going to take this and now we're going to start identifying who we really are. Who God's really called us to be. Who God's really telling you. Use it. So that's it. That's all I got for you this week. So find it. Start thinking back. Where did I? Don't overthink it and don't overanalyze it. Don't get stuck in it. Just identify that area. Some of us have identified it and we are moving on. Some of us are taking some positive steps. Sometimes we need help trying to identify who God actually designed us to be. And that's what we're going to do over the next few weeks. We're going to start identifying who God's really called us to be. So let me pray over you real quick. And if you need anything, let me pray over you. And come down here and we'll talk it out. The leaders will be down here in just a few minutes, or find us in the room wherever we're at. We can pray over you at any point. It doesn't have to be directly at the end of the music or at the end of the service or after I close in prayer. You can find us at any point. So let me pray over you and we'll be done.